We are live now. Welcome everybody to Paranormal Happy Hour. My guest tonight is Bishop Ronfile Enright from the Order of Exorcists. And Bishop, how are you?
I'm doing fair. How about yourself?
A little warm. A little warm today.
Yes.
I had to do a lot of yard work this morning and clean
Yeah.
up the house a little bit, but
I remember those days when I had to do yard work. Oh my gosh, takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, especially when the grass is knee high and soaking wet from the last night's rain. My lawnmower got a good workout for the first time since the winter. So yeah, we were talking about the spirit boxes just before we went on here, and this is what I work with. And we were talking about I have used it in Gettysburg of all places, and I've gotten I would say demonic type voices over it.
Interesting.
A few times, yeah.
You know, it's come a long way. It's come a long way in terms of technology. I think, as I mentioned to you earlier, a friend of mine invented the whole concept and the first box. And, of course, his name was Frank. And we used to call it the Frank box. This is about 8 or 9 years ago. And he actually created the very first, as we call it now, the spirit box. And he just put a whole bunch of various electrical technology into this one space and created something very special. And so it was introduced to me way back when. And our organization, the Order of Exorcists, we had awarded a certificate of appreciation, and it was an achievement award to Frank for all his interest in trying to scientifically approach things that are on the other side.
Nice.
So, yes, it was, of course, Frank passed away, I don't know, I'm saying about maybe 8 years ago. Those old timers like yours truly could probably remember the old Frank boxes. And he was such a soul. He just would not take any money for his invention. In fact, to the contrary, he would give it away. And anyone who was interested, he would be flattered, of course, and he would just give them the whole apparatus as a gift. And he wasn't interested in profits. He wasn't interested in patenting it. And so as a result, over the years, and especially since he's passed on, other people have used the same blueprints, and they upgraded the technology.
This is based off of Steve Huff's design. And he put it out there. I figured, I'll give it a shot. And I was successful with it. I mean, it's really not that hard. When I built it a few years ago, it cost me around maybe $200 to build. Stop touching that. You're not old enough to touch that yet. I know you want to hear voices. Little investigator in training right here.
You know, I think of those devices as a tool or an instrument that may heighten your own senses, your own natural abilities in regards to what you might hear or read on the other side. I think that whole magnifying the imagery of what's happening all begins within your mind. So the white sound, or the white noise as it's called, as like you were telling me in your device, it's been lowered to such a degree that you could actually hear voices and sounds and things of this nature. And I think that a lot has to do with your personal perception and the perception of the people that are listening. Because the people that are listening that are highly perceptive, they might hear some really good sounds. And their reasoning, their natural reasoning abilities would put these things together and come up with what they may have heard or what their impressions are. So I think that's a tool. It's a tool that can be used to heighten your own personal abilities. Anyway, that's my personal opinion on that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've gotten a lot of evidence out of it. I mean, it's a great tool. It really is. I use this more than I use anything else, aside from a voice recorder. Other than you know, but other than that, that's really mostly what I've been using lately. And stuff.
In the olden days, our investigation teams didn't have any technology, not really,
Mm-hmm.
and so they used to use the bare minimal in terms of common sense,
Yep.
perception, and if a person was intuitive, they would use that person to perhaps maybe read the room and read the house and read what's going on, and they would add their impressions as to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
The And those are the olden days. You know, of course, we used a lot of pads and pencils, and those the pencils are
Yep.
those long things. You know, they have a little lead, and you kind of like hand. I don't use pencils anymore. And the pad, of course,
I don't
was
have
like
any here.
it's like a pad. You know, it's like, but you
Yep.
know, it looks like this.
Yeah, I
But
do
very
have a pad. I do have a pad that I use.
there you go.
I use pen though. I don't use a pencil. I probably
In
should
this
use a pencil.
in this modern day of technology, you know, we have these devices that you could talk into and they could actually dictate. That is, they will actually take your notes and write them down long form so you could review later.
Yep.
I mean, the technology is, oh my gosh, the technology is so advanced these days. I could remember back in the olden days, we would never think that this day would ever come because the
Yeah.
technology is incredible, totally incredible. Yeah,
I'm all for changing, but I'm also intrigued by the old ways of doing things. The old tape recorders,
yeah.
um, and stuff like that. Putting the bells on the doors, so if a door opened, you'd hear it. And all that.
Yeah. Tonight,
I keep saying I'm gonna go get bells, and I keep forgetting to do it.
let me, if you like, I could tell you a story about what has been happening at my place of residence for the past 20 years.
Yeah,
And I
sure.
think you might find this interesting. In my role as the chief exorcist for the Order of Exorcists for so many years, I always had my team send me their assessments along with proof in regards to what is happening, what type of manifestations are taking place in the house. So they would send me, you know, their recordings and so on, and I would review them, and then I would examine them, and if it was a possession, I would, you know, have our psychiatrist join and collaborate with me in regards to what their opinions are, and then I would form an opinion. But all that information, I had it on cassette tapes, so I had probably close to maybe well over 1,000 of these CDs that I was keeping in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And what is happening is these CDs, okay, they're not only recording what's going on, but they're also absorbing the energy that's going on within the room or within the investigation. So little did I know until many years later, because, you know, strange things would happen in my house, you know, I mean, seriously, in the house. And there's really no call for it. But I would look at these things as if the house is going through some form of demonic infestation, which is almost impossible in my home, but nothing really is impossible. And of course, I would do my house blessings, and I would do all the other rituals when that would take place. However, I found out where the source was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And the source of this demonic power, at least affecting my life and within my space, was in these CDs. Each of these CDs, as I said, they're recordings of assessments, and they were not only recording, but they were also absorbing anything that is spiritual within the space, the room, the house, whatever. So that was an attachment with the information that was on the CD. Didn't even realize it. I didn't even think of that until a few years later. And then when I realized, and I think I may not have told you a story, but I'll tell you a real brief story in connection with that, and keep that in mind, okay, about the CD tapes, which, by the way, I moved to the garage, and all that activity started happening in the garage, okay? And so, you know, like 9 years ago, I had a Prius parked in my garage. It would start by itself. The radio would go on, it would turn off, and as soon as you approach it, the car would turn off immediately. The lights would go off and everything, and you're going, what the heck? I had the vehicle checked several times, okay, for any malfunctions, and each and every time they said, nothing's wrong with the vehicle. I mean, it's a Toyota Prius. It's like it's a very good, reliable type of vehicle. And to make a long story short, I owned that vehicle for 10 years. I loved it. I mean, 60 miles to a gallon. I mean, unbelievable. Especially these days, that would be like the best vehicle to own.
It just cost $90 to put 20 gallons of fuel in my wife's car.
How much?
$90 for a full tank.
It cost us somewhere between $110 to $125 because again in California is over $6 a gallon. I don't know if you know that or not.
No, I hear it's I pay $4.39. Diesel's over $6 here, but the gas is still under $5.
Oh, really? Well, ours is over $6. I mean, and that's really totally. Well, that's another story. Another story to be told at another time. But getting back to my garage, okay? So things started happening in the garage. Then I remember opening the garage door, and there was a whole bunch of bees that were in the garage. I mean, they all flew out. Couple of hundred at least, like in a pack, which it seemed like they were thousands, but I'm sure they were just a couple of hundred. I ducked as they flew right over my head, and then they just totally dissipated. I looked in the garage trying to search for a nest or something like that. There was no nest in the garage. I had an exterminator come, and he did the whole 9 yards, and he sprayed and he searched for any type of residue from all these bees. I couldn't find anything. So when he left, okay, I said, fine. I closed the door. The following morning, I opened the door, and about another 200 bees came out of nowhere, and they just head straight for me. Wow. So I said, okay, now I've never been stung by a bee, and I don't even know what it's like being stung by a bee. But if that ever happens, I'm probably gonna be not very happy about it. In any case, so that happened again. So I decided to. Because I knew what was going on. There was some kind of dark spiritual entitlement going on within that space of the garage, all because of those CDs. Those CDs, as I said, they not only record the information, but they also absorbed. And I'm repeating this so you could remember this. The story I'm going to tell you, you're going to be really interested, I think. So the energy is absorbed from that dark space. Okay. I'm moving on to my next story, but keep that story in the back of your mind, okay, about the energy, okay, and about how it's absorbed. 6 years ago or so, I'm sitting in front of my computer, and my team from across the world, I mean, in the other side of the world, in the UK, sent me their assessment. Now, the thing about their assessment is it was sent a month. They actually performed the assessment a month ago, and then they sent it a month later. So I received it late. So the assessment basically is not only the assessment report, but it's also the CD, in regards to the lead investigator interviewing the victim. And so the victim is answering the questions, in our questionnaire and so on. So I'm collecting all this information as I'm watching in the CD. Now, I'm going to put a little period right there because I want to say something real quick in regards to that. Something about demonic. The demonic and spiritual entities are outside, just like God. They're outside our frame of awareness. Okay, they're outside our time and space. Right. So that means that a demon theoretically can move from one century to another within seconds. Okay, after saying that, and of course, keeping in mind, demons have no boundaries. They have no time restrictions. They're outside our time and space, such as God, just like God. They can move in and out from century to century. They're fallen angels, as you know. These are our demons now that they've been with us for centuries. Now, getting back to my story, I'm in front of the computer reviewing the assessment that my guys in the UK sent me. And of course, keep in mind, the investigation was done a month earlier. So it's an old assessment, but I'm reviewing it. And I'm watching the CD. And as I'm watching the CD, something really interesting takes place. And I've told the story a couple of times because I think it's worth mentioning. I was looking at my screen, and this black fuzzy ball started traveling from one side of my screen to the other. And it was a black fuzzy ball going like this. And just like, it got my attention for a second because I thought, well, it's the taping, the video tape, recording, whatever, like a technical, malfunction or something. So I'm reviewing the thing, and as I'm reviewing, this was a real demonic possession, and the person that was interviewing the person who was the victim, who was actually displaying supernatural behavior. Okay, and where the manifestations of the spirit was within the person, so you could see what's going on just by looking at the person. But this even made it more so when I looked at the screen. This fuzzball came again from the right side of my screen to the left. So it's moving like this. And so I'm looking at the screen. My face is about this close to the screen. Okay, I can't, I'm trying to make out what that fuzz is. And it goes back and forth very slowly, back and forth. And so my eyes are following this thing, and it's going back and forth. And then all of a sudden it starts increasing in size. So the little black ball starts opening up. This fuzz became so big. And then it slowly went to the center of the screen. And as it did, I'm staring right at it, looking real close. And it was at that time I felt an incredible amount of energy coming from the screen, so much so that it literally pushed me back in my chair. Okay, it was a force that was just an invisible force that came out of my screen. It's all tied in to what was happening 30 days prior to me receiving the assessment tape. For me, reviewing the tape, it was 30 years. Now, understand, the demonic, since they could move like from one room to another in a matter of seconds, it's like it was taunting me and wanted me to see its activity. So as it slowly turned in front of me and then continued to go back and forth, it had my attention. It was drawing my attention off in regards to what was actually happening in the actual background. Right. The manifestation took place 30 days ago, and yet I'm watching it in today, real time, and the demonic activity that I'm watching on the CD is actually happening in my time frame, within the moment as I'm viewing it. So it's like I'm there, like I traveled back in time 30 days ago. The demon just has to basically draw its attention and travel from one's 100, from a century to another century within a matter of seconds. So nice. I've experienced a supernatural event, and this was one of the attachments that was on one of the CDs, because I was, I don't know why, but I was, saving them, collecting them. I was just putting them away, filing them away, and as a result, I will never forget that incident. I repeated this story a few times over the years. The reason being is I believe that it illustrates the power of darkness that could walk through the centuries. And in terms of our lifetime, we're just a little blimp, okay, in regards to the universe. I mean, we're only here for a very short time. Average lifespan's 80, 90. You're lucky if you reach 90. But
my grandmother just turned 91 on the 9th.
Oh, God bless her.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, but 91 years young.
That's great. I mean, life is so precious, my friend. I mean, I take life right now. Every second we have, I just try to cling on to it as much as I can. I try to hold every second, because the seconds go by so fast. And before you know it, the minutes go by, the weeks go by, the years go by. And before you know it, well, you're like me, you're an old guy.
I'm already starting to feel that way. I've been having some issues with my hip lately, and it hurts. It hurts. My wife's starting to call me grandpa. Because I'm getting gray hair already, and
you're too young, my friend.
Tell me about it.
You're too young to have any stress at all. I mean, my granddaughter calls me Papa. I'm her Papa, and she's so darn cute. And so it's like, these kids, I'm telling you, they're so precious. And you have a son, Edison. You hold on to the memories, because he's going to grow so fast. Before you know it, he'll be in high school, college, and there you have it.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I mean, he's only 2 years old and he's 40 pounds and he's the size of my 4-year-old nephew.
Really?
My 4-year-old nephew is the same height as him.
Wow.
Well,
he's gonna be a tall guy.
He's gonna be tall. Well, we're both about 6 foot. My father-in-law is 6'2", so he's definitely got the height genes. And yeah, so hopefully that'll get him a scholarship in either football or baseball.
Oh, excellent! You like sports?
Well, I do. He likes throwing stuff, so he's getting an arm on him. He's getting an arm on him. But,
throwing stuff. Can I use that as a segue to my next story? Because throwing stuff is something that kids do all the time, but there are some people that are no longer kids. They're adults, and they keep throwing things around. Sometimes they're involved in things that are not very pleasant, and so what they do is they try to spread the evil and the darkness and try to blind those who are trying to see. I mean, life is difficult enough just to walk in the daylight, but just picturing yourself in a black room with all sharp obstacles and you can't see anything and you're walking and you have to walk from one side to the other. You know what? That can be very painful.
I've done that.
Can be very painful.
I've done that as a fireman.
Yeah.
I've done that as a fireman. You can't see where you're going. It's not a good feeling, but the only thing you can do is just keep moving until you find your way out.
Yeah. That's all you can do.
Yeah. And I always tell people, if you find yourself in this situation, get to a wall and just follow the wall around.
Yeah. Unless there's a hole or something in the floor, of course, you might fall into a pit.
Yeah, well, that's what you use one hand on the wall and the other one to feel where you're at. But who says that the floor won't collapse out from under you? It has happened.
That's a possibility. We live in a world full of mysteries and questions about everything. And sometimes our reality is not what we think it is.
I actually have a picture. I'm going to put up right here. I want to see what you think about it.
Wow. It looks like I hope that wasn't your house.
No. This is an apartment complex near where I live. About 7 years ago, I was at this apartment complex. I think it's the same building, except the right side of the building, to the right of the fire, was on fire. Now the left side is on fire.
It looks like the intensity must have been incredible because it's so bright.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but can you see the face in it?
The first image in my mind received was a pumpkin with eyes, nose, and mouth. I mean, to me, and it has a little thing on the top. To me, it looks like a pumpkin, but again, I'm sure that's not what you're referring to. There's probably more something.
I'm referring to it as evil, basically. Fire being related to the devil and stuff like that. Because fire will kill you, it'll hurt you, and stuff like that. And that's basically what the devil wants.
Yeah. Well, I've never been a fireman like you, but I have been close to fires that were not there. And when you're near the fires of what some people might call hell, it could get very uncomfortable. So much so that the hair on your arms can singe, and your eyelids can singe as well. And,
I haven't heard that.
Yes, I'm sure you have. The heat could feel so intense, and yet, in my case, there was no fire. It was just the effects of what the fire would feel like in this. And this was a demonic infestation. This was a house that had at least 2 rooms that were occupied by a lot of invisible things that were very dark.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like in Gettysburg when I had that partial possession in the orphanage, and I tried to get out. I couldn't get out because the hallway where the main door was, the outside, it was like being in a smoky fire. I just could not find my way out of the building. And then I guess once it lifted, somebody was able to help me out, and once I got out, it lifted. You stop touching. Stop touching.
Well, I know when you're in that type of environment, you're wearing equipment, of course, but I'm sure even with the equipment, you're probably still breathing pretty hard.
You're breathing hard. You're feeling it. You're feeling the heat.
Yeah.
The heat and all. I mean, just because you're wearing that gear doesn't mean that you're not gonna feel it.
Yeah.
Especially if your gear's on fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same thing is true, when in investigations, when you're doing things and you're invading the space of something that does not want you in that space, you will start feeling and sensing things that are uncomfortable, as if you were like in a room that's on fire. You'll feel the heaviness of the air. The climate will get so strange, okay, that it will literally take your breath away, and your attention would be, of course, directly on what's going on around you. I think personally, I should say personally because it's a fact, and many people could attest to this, that when you're dealing with anything dark, okay, it does not want you to be there, and it will do whatever it can to push you out. And if not physically, it will try to do it mentally to get you out, and it will try to convince you that your life is in danger. Yep. And if you stay any longer, you will die.
Yep.
And you have no choice in the matter. And they will manipulate your mind, your whole mental process, and have you believe that. So much so that whatever you're doing in an investigation, all you want to do is get out.
Yeah.
You just want to run out, And believe me, that's happening.
Same thing with a fire. The same thing with a fire, the fire's trying to push you out while you're trying to put it out. You're doing a search and all of a sudden the fire comes to the floor or the roof caves in or something like that. It could happen. I mean, I had my coat burned. The back of my coat was burned one time in a fire. I was doing a search of a room, and the fire came up through the floor in the closet and caught the back of my coat, the tail of my coat on fire. And I didn't know it. My partner who was behind me jumped on me and started smacking my ass. I didn't know what he was doing, but once he told me that I was on fire, I was happy that happened. But it's like I said, I've said this before, that I attribute this to being a fireman. It almost goes hand in hand when you think about it.
Yeah.
You got to be alert of your surroundings. You got to know your exits, know your way out, know how to get in. And
that's true. Like if you're doing an investigation, you should know all those things.
Yep. Well, I do. I always do a walk around, and I always look at the map of the to see the location before I go to it. This way, I have an idea of what's where and what's in the woods and stuff like that. I just did one yesterday. More of it what you call it? Oh man, I can't think of it. I basically investigated the house to calm the client down. I knew there was nothing there and stuff like that. The only issue is they're moving out of the house, so I can't investigate it again. So I don't know, but she says she's feeling a little bit better with it. This was that's the woman that was screaming that I played the tape recording for you. She says she feels a little bit better in the hotel, but my theory is that she's in a public place, and if she starts screaming like that, she's gonna get thrown. She might get thrown out.
Right.
So that's my theory. I mean, I'm still not convinced about it, but I'm still waiting on. They're having insurance issues with getting the psychiatric help and all that. So.
Right.
I'm just waiting on that. So I told him to put it on hold. Find a place to live, and then we'll continue.
I can't emphasize enough how serious that could be, especially if she has some kind of a psychosis that needs to be diagnosed by a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that, a person in that condition can suck anyone and everyone into their delusion and have you believe that they truly are possessed, when it's actually a manipulation that is taking place, which is a natural manipulation of someone who has a psychosis. And so if you're not fully trained, you need to get people on your team that are. You should have close ties to the medical community, the psychological community, the health centers, and have a good tie to people that have experience, not only with people, but also structures, homes, houses, of this nature. Because a lot of sometimes the answers have to come not from the people that claim to be possessed or have some kind of demonic issues, but rather it's coming from the house. Perhaps maybe the house is creating the cause and effect. Why these sounds keep persisting? Why they keep hearing things? People whispering behind their back, and they can't quite make out the whisper, but they could hear the whisper. And the scratching sounds, and all these things can very well be something really, really evil and very demonic, or it be something with the house, where the house is vibrating. Everything vibrates, in real life. Well, we're vibrating right now. Everything around us is vibrating. In certain homes, depending as to how the foundation is built and the structure of the home, it could vibrate to a point where you could actually hear a buzzing sound. Sometimes your mind can actually interpret the sounds as some kind of audio verbal sound, as somebody whispering. And if that be the case, you might think that you're hearing your name being called. And there could be a lot of other factors. We talked about black matter or black fungus, which is really dangerous. If it's in your house and you have that black fungus, it has those particles that you inhale.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and you do that, it could actually make you hallucinate, and then you actually see things that may be there, but it will intensify it so much it'll be something else. So you can't interpret what you see to be a matter of fact. Okay, because
it's a stack of money.
Yeah.
Bishop, we have a question here about your book here. Does your book come in hard copy or paperback?
I have published some hard copies, but then because of the expense, I'm looking for another publisher that could do the hard copies. I have the soft covered, the paperback, and the Kindle. Well, that's available online. The hard copies are not yet. They'll be out sometime this year. I only have a few left, and so I'm holding on to those. And I'm trying to find a publisher that will take that on, and then it'll be available. But it won't be for a little bit because there are other things I'm working on right now. But that should be sometime this year.
Okay, and you can get it off the paperback off of the website www.orderofexorcist.com. Because I received mine 2 weeks ago.
Oh, good.
Yep, I haven't started reading it yet because I've been working on a project, but I haven't had time to start reading it yet. But you have another question. The paperback is not on Amazon right now.
No, it's on
Kindle.
It's the one that's on paperback is Blur. If you go to my website, click on the link, and they'll take you right there. Take you right where the book's at.
So I do look forward to reading it. I do.
I'm going to have a sequel.
Are you?
I'm having a sequel because my first book is it's my autobiographies in there, and I only mentioned about half a dozen cases. My sequel is going to be about at least maybe 25, 30 cases that I have documented that I am going to upload, and I'm going to print that. That's going to be the sequel. That should be coming out this year too.
Cool. Awesome.
It'll start off like Kindle, and then it'll start off with the paperbacks, and then the hardcover. That's the progression of it.
Awesome. And that's going to be on the website also?
Yes. When they go to the website, there's a lot of interesting things that they could read. I'm in my semi-retired state. I only take on high-profile cases. But the information is updated as much as we can, and I have a wonderful lady who is our website designer. Her name's Emily, and she's in Florida. So so anytime I need something upgraded, I just contact her, and she does it for me.
Nice.
This is what I'm talking about. It's called delegating. Very few people understand what the term means. If you try to do everything yourself, you're going to fail. Yeah. You have to have a team. You have to have, like even your investigation team, you have to have someone who's knowledgeable, in people skills, where they could take on the role as a lead investigator, and they could use the questionnaire. You need someone who is familiar with cameras, and how to record certain things. You need someone who is a good photographer. You also need someone who's in a construction worker, maybe someone who's maybe has a specialty in electronics or something. And basically what I'm saying is it'd be great if you have like a general contractor as in your team. So when you do your assessment, you first inspect the house and you see whether or not the house is the cause of the problem. That is, the cause and effect of the problem. And if that's the case, then of course you have to address it as such. And sometimes people living in these houses that may have these issues may think that the problem's coming from them. They might think that they're the victim of some type of demonic influence. Now, that's not to say that would be the case, but you don't know until we actually do an investigation and then the assessment.
Yeah. I mean,
it's always important to have clergy on your team, because, as you said, fortunately you're an ordained minister. You can do probably the house blessings and all the other things that are tied in there, and you can say the prayers, and
I've done many house blessings.
Yeah, which is very, very important. To me, I think the power is not so much in the words, but the power is what's behind the words. God gives us that incredible ability to filter his healing energy into whatever space you're in. And if you do it in his name, then things are going to start happening. And that's all part of the whole real, scenario. And that's exactly how it works. You do things in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Trinity is a powerful, powerful sign of where you stand in your belief. When you stand behind our Lord Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, and God, our Father, you stand and they are right behind you, and you're standing behind them, and you have that power to do amazing things. Somebody once told me that there's no such thing as a supernatural, but they're Christians. Well, I have news for you. The Christian faith is supernatural. Everything in our faith is supernatural. Jesus Christ rose from the dead in 3 days. That is a supernatural event. I had an investigator one time that told me he joined our organization and said, I don't believe in ghosts. I only believe in spirit. And I said, well, are you a Christian? He says, yes. I said, well, okay, well, tell me the Holy, who are the members of the Holy Trinity? And then I repeated, it's the Father, the Son, and the Holy
Spirit.
Ghost, or ghost.
Yeah,
so it even says ghost, in the scriptures. So, you can't tell me you don't believe in ghosts, because you do that, then you don't acknowledge the Trinity. So, but he was really firm in his belief. Oh, there's no such thing as ghosts. Well, you know what? The scriptures use the term ghost in many, many, many cases, in many parts of the scripture. So it's interesting when I encounter people with that belief system. Yeah,
it very is. I actually have one of my team members is an atheist, and but she doesn't she doesn't knock believing in a ghost or the Holy Spirit or anything like that. She kind of looks at it from both views, as a matter of fact. She started that case with me, and she doesn't want to go back to it because there's a 5-year-old kid involved, and it kind of stressed her out a little bit that he's got to go through this and stuff. And it's a little stressing, but I don't want to say I overlooked that, but I kind of gotta put my feelings aside to make sure I get the job done.
Yeah.
And stuff, and I attribute that from being a firefighter and an EMT over all these years. And, but she's she's great. You know, I bounce stuff off of her and she bounces stuff off of me. It's great. You know, it's great to have somebody
It's
with.
always good. It's always good to collaborate. But you know, my feelings about people that say they're atheists. There's an old saying that you will never find an atheist in a foxhole, because when they're in the foxhole and they're like in the military and they're seeing these missiles flying over, people getting shot, you know, guess what? The first thing they do, they say, "Dear God, protect me, help me."
Yep.
Okay, even the best of atheists will come to that conclusion. Yep. Even being an atheist, you're still a believer, because you got to believe in something. Okay, and if you believe in that, you're still a believer. Exactly. But the point is that our protection, like, you know, the St. Michael's prayer, it focuses in on the power of protection that we have. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. I mean, that's a big one. Be our protector against the wickedness and snares of the devil.
Yep.
May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of heavenly hosts, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl through the world seeking the ruins of souls. Do you know that prayer is the prayer that you say before you walk into anything that you know you have no control over, especially if you're in an environment where it was reported to be haunted, an environment where supernatural things are taking place, an environment that you know you're not going to have full control unless you tap into that energy source, which is the Holy Spirit.
Oh, yeah. I wish I would have spent that night in Gettysburg. Yeah. I probably would have had a lot different experience than what I did if I had done that. But unfortunately, over the years, you know, being a firefighter and an EMT, it was hard for me to see the good stuff by seeing all the bad. So I stopped going to church. I never lost my faith. You know, I never lost my faith. I'd always look up at the sky and, you know, talk and you know, ask Jesus and God for forgiveness or to help me out with something and stuff like that. And let me tell you, they've watched my back over the years. So I've had some near misses. I mean, I was standing at a car accident doing paperwork at the back of our ambulance on Route 18, and somebody who was watching the cars, looking at the cars that were wrecked. Okay, we had our patient in the ambulance. My partner was taking vitals, and I was standing at the step writing up paperwork. And all of a sudden, I turn around, and there's a car headed straight for the ambulance.
Oh wow!
If I didn't jump out of the way in time, I would have been sandwiched between the car and the ambulance.
Wow!
Yeah.
Wow! That's close.
Yeah, tell me about it.
You probably, because of where you live, you've probably seen the battle, like, of being recreated over and over. Maybe even some full apparitions or partial apparitions of soldiers. Oh, yeah. Have you witnessed that in the past?
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah. I've had a lot of people that have told me that. Yes.
My first experience out in Gettysburg, I saw the Texan at Devil's Den. And that's, I mean, I've always believed in ghosts, you know, growing up. I'm a big fan of Ghostbusters, you know. And, but I've always believed in it. And my first experience was the Devil's Den in, I want to say, like, my freshman going into my sophomore year of high school. And then I started doing back and forth, you know, on and off with the camera, with just the camera, taking pictures and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then I got more into it, and lo and behold, here I am. You know, but I've seen apparitions many times. I got a picture of an apparition on this computer at Pennhurst of an apparition forming. And it was really, it was cool. I mean, here, this is a picture I took in Gettysburg also. That's a human being with a spirit standing right next to her or in front of her.
Yep.
And I took that at the not David Stewart Farm. I can't think of the Daniel Lady Farm in Gettysburg, which was a Confederate field hospital. Mm-hmm. And I've also seen a full body apparition walk right across the barn too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great.
It in like Civil War retire, or was it?
Oh
just,
yeah, he
how
was in
was it clothes?
full gray uniform. I mean, he was as clear as you and me. And then I ran outside to see if it was somebody else, and he was gone. And yeah, I mean, you'll see it. You'll see it. You know, my theory is if you're not looking for it, is when you're going to see it.
That's right.
You know, I don't know. Have you ever been to Harper's Ferry?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Harper's Ferry is a Civil War town, and we weren't even ghost hunting. Me and my wife and my son were at the train station. Or no, just me and my wife. This was before him. We were at the train station. We were just train watching. Mm-hmm. And there's a story of a lady. They call her the Screaming Lady. And back in the, I want to say 1800s, or it was in the 1800s. I don't know was the exact date. Might have been around the time of the Civil War. There was a lady that slept alongside the tracks, and her lantern fell over and lit her on fire.
Wow!
And she came out of her tent and onto the tracks, screaming that she was on fire and got hit by a train.
Wow!
And people see her walking up and down the tracks. Well, we were train watching, and all of a sudden, I seen this white figure walking down the tracks and all that. And I went to go yell for him, like, "Hey, get off the tracks! There's a train coming!" And they were gone. And then about 2 minutes later, I looked down the bridge, and they were on the bridge.
Wow!
And this person was on the bridge, and I'm like, "Huh." So, we weren't even ghost hunting. We were just waiting for a train to film a train come by, and we saw a ghost. You know,
it's funny that things always seem to happen when you least expect it.
Yep.
When you're not looking for it, and for some reason your focus is on something else, but there's always seems to be something that will intrude upon wherever you are at, and whether it's an apparition or some type of movement happening, and you could only see it through your peripheral vision. Yep. Many of us, use our peripheral vision, and we could see certain things that you couldn't see if you were looking straight on, that is directly on the image. So sometimes you could see dark shadows or certain things flash as if something is flashing into view and then disappearing like almost immediately. And these things happen. There's a lot of people that don't believe in any of this stuff. I hate to say it. And there are even people that don't even believe that demons exist. And it's so funny because the majority of the people that are in our organization, they started off as non-believers.
Oh, a lot of investigators have. A lot of investigators have it. What are you doing? I guess he likes being on camera. Say hi to everybody.
That's like an on-the-job training, huh?
Yeah. I can't wait. I have a theory that he sees spirits. My mother is in the house, from what I'm told by a friend, by Tara, my co-host, who's unfortunately not here tonight because she's not feeling well.
Oh, that's too bad.
So my mother watches over him, and my mother passed in 2015. Stop touching the computer. I just got it working. Leave it alone. And but I every once in a while he'll point up to the roof or something like that, and he'll hint there's something there, but I can't see it. So hopefully, when he gets old enough, we'll start training him.
I have a newly born grandson, and he's like about 6. He's like 4 months old. Yeah, about 4 months old. And when he looks at the ceiling or looks at certain parts of the house, it's as he's actually seeing an angel. He's seeing something that we're not able to see, or at least most of us aren't. And I believe, and they used to say that when a baby smiles, it means that for no reason, it means an angel kissed them. And I thought I always thought that was really cute.
Yeah. He smiles all the time. In fact, you are wet. You are wet. You need a diaper change. Go tell mommy you need a diaper change. Yeah.
Yeah.
The joys of parenthood.
There you go.
He got himself worked up the other day, and the other night when I was changing him for bed, and he exorcist vomited up his strawberry milk.
Oh.
Luckily, it missed me, but
it's all a part of the scenario, my friend.
Yeah,
it's all a part of life, you know. And one day you're going to have someone who is your son may have a child, and you'll be a grandfather, and your whole perspective is going to change because you're going to be able to teach him all the good things in life, and help him, sidetrack all the bad things that we shouldn't even be discussing. There's so much of it out there, but the main thing is if you keep your eyes on the Lord, you keep your eyes on God.
Yep.
And keep him incorporated in your life, you really can't go wrong. And that's not to say you're not going to fall and slip and fall into something that's not pleasing. The point is that God will always be there, and that should be always part of your reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And God, and no matter what happens, you leave the church and come back, God will always forgive you.
Yeah.
I learned that. I came back. I mean, I unfortunately I can't get to church every week, but I went yesterday. I did a confession yesterday. I went to mass yesterday, received the Eucharist and all that. And like I said, unfortunately I can't get there all the time, but when I do get there, I make the most of it. Because I always try to get there before an investigation. Also, just to make sure I'm good. My soul's cleansed.
That's always advisable. That's always advisable. You want to make sure that you have a clean slate.
Yep.
Make sure that that God knows that you're a part of the family and that you're asking for protection.
Yep.
And then that protection will go wherever you go, as long as you acknowledge God and make Him part of your process, make Him part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's extremely important, Again, it goes for everything.
And I always wear. I don't leave the house without this. I got my cross, and then I got my St. Benedict's medal on. On, and figured, what's more protection? The more protection, the better.
The more protection, the better. Why not? And when it rains outside, you want to make sure you have your umbrella, and you could open that umbrella, in a matter of seconds before getting wet.
Yep.
That would be the best time to open your umbrella. It's the best time to have God's protection is really any time you're exposed to all the elements of the world. And unfortunately, the elements of the world include all the evil things, the evil influences that are around us. And we can very well be touched and affected. And if that happens, then you need to seek help.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I tell people. If you need help, call. Don't feel bad. Don't feel like you're going to be made fun of because you asked for help. Okay. Right. I ask for help all the time. If I can't figure it out, I do. I ask for help. But I really don't care what people think about that. I ask for help, and the only stupid question is the one that's not asked. And I tell people that all the time.
Yeah. Well, loving your loved ones are one thing. Loving your son's one thing. Loving your wife's one thing. Loving your parents and so on. But loving your enemy and people that may be threats to you and forgiving them, having that ability to forgive them, no matter how you disagree with them, no matter, what your difference is. If you have that ability, that's a God-given ability that God has given you.
Yep.
Okay. It's in order to expand and become part of the abundant life that Jesus Christ talks about in John 20, 10:10. Christ said, I came that they might have life and might have it more abundantly. That abundant life comes from the knowledge that we have a Savior and we have a God that loves us. And so no matter if I don't care if you're a paranormal investigator who is an expert in these dark matters, you could never, ever have too much of God in your life and incorporated into life.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, it would be pointless. It's like being a soldier and going to war without a weapon.
Oh yeah,
that'd be kind of crazy. Huh?
Yep, I know a lot. I know a lot of cops who have St. Michael's medal,
Yes.
you know, and all that, and you know they basically say the same thing. You know, they always ask for protection before each shift, even after the shift. You know.
Sure. St. Michael is a patron saint of the armed forces and also police department. And, and oh yeah, for sure. That's very important. And I'm glad these guys have it right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, and there are other, belief systems out there, and such as I'm thinking of the state. There's a couple of states actually that have been advertising the Church of Satan. Satanic Church, Satanic Temple, or something. And I think one's in Tennessee, and I think there's another one somewhere in the Midwest. Anyway, to me, it's a reminder that there'll always be the two elements: the good versus evil. And as a result, the one has to exist in order for the other one to exist. So you have to know what evil is in order to understand and embrace what's good.
Edison, get out of there. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
He's trying to get into my locked gun cabinet.
Oh, no, you don't want to do that.
No. I'm lucky. I'm lucky. He doesn't really do that very often. But I've also taught him, guns are bad. Don't touch without me. And so, but now my wife is bribing him with Mickey Mouse.
Oh yeah, whatever works, right?
Exactly. But yeah, it's. Yeah, I mean, I started when I got back in. I left investigating for a little bit after an incident I had in Gettysburg, and about that time, my son was being born anyway. So I'm like, I want to be around. I don't want to be bothered with doing investigation at all. My son is young and stuff like that, so I waited about a year before I came back, and I just started reading up on demonology and stuff like that, just to make sure that I knew what I was getting myself back into. I knew how to protect myself and all that. And I never actually thought I would hear the call to do what I'm doing now. And when I look back, I mean, I've always done that. I've always helped people, being an EMT and a firefighter, and I guess this is where God wants me. He wants me to help people. And I said that to my wife, and she kind of rolled her eyes at me, and then she thought about it. What?
Common response to you.
Oh, shut up. She said that was a common response to me. But I do believe that this is where I'm supposed to be, helping people out and all that.
Let me tell you about your setting. Let me tell you, as I observe your show, I would say that you have the perfect title for your show. Because this is exactly what the title says. It's kind of like a kickback, relaxed family environment, just about, and and it's like it's not formal, it's not like some other crazy shows. This is as you said, it's like an after school. How would you put it? It's another take on what your perceptive would be in this type of setting.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to laugh. You have to like kind of break up the mood sometimes. And you have to be in a casual mode every once in a while. It's not always a good thing to be formal all the time.
No, so, definitely not.
No.
I mean, I in the EMS service and the fire service, I've seen people who don't have a sense of humor. And, and unfortunately, it kind of sounds wrong. But
it's comfortable.
Yeah, you got to do something. You got to do something to take the stress out. Otherwise, it's gonna eat you alive. I mean, I left fire service and EMS service because after my mom died, I kept getting visions and stuff, playbacks of different calls that I've been on that were not good.
Wow.
So
you're like post-traumatic stress syndrome, huh?
Yeah, kind of. I mean,
wow.
The fire department psychologist. I talked to him, and he kind of hinted towards that as well. And that time I was just like, I just thought about it, and I said, I think it's just my time. It's my time to go.
You've probably seen a lot of horrible things then.
Oh yeah,
on the job, that is.
Well, I joined the rescue squad 6 months before 9/11.
Oh,
that's
wow.
That's how far back I went. And
wow.
So I wasn't directly in New York City, but I was working with people coming over, the dead coming over, seeing
right.
people, seeing some nasty stuff. And I was still in high school at that time, and then, I don't know, 20 years later, you never think it would come back to you, and it come back to haunt you. It came back to haunt me. So that's when I said, well, I'm retiring and going into trucking. And then I got back into this, and here I am. So
there's a thing in the psychology field called repression, and that is the process where your mind is able to bounce into a defensive mode and place a lot of your horrible experiences and just store it away somewhere, so you won't have to dwell on it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to function, as within a normal lifestyle. So in a way, repression is a godsend,
Oh, yeah.
And that God made us that way, so we won't allow ourselves to be exposed to the horrors of our experiences.
Yep. And but it's not a bad place where I'm at. I got a family. Well, renting a house or renting a place. We got. Our bills are paid. We're not in too much debt that we can't get out of it. So I can't really complain too much.
That's excellent.
And
not many people could say that.
Exactly. Don't get me wrong. I have my good days and I have my bad days. I have my days where I just want to go, where I just don't want to talk to anybody. Just go do my job, go home. And then there's days where I'm on the phone constantly talking to somebody and stuff like that. And I got friends that I vent to and stuff like that. So, and same me, But here we go. But it looks like we're at that hour. I don't know if you got the time or not to keep going. But if you want to keep going, we can.
I could, we can go another 10 minutes if you want, 10, 15 minutes. It's up to you. You're the host, and I'm your guest. And so,
all right. Well, I'm going to take a quick break. I got to run to the bathroom, and we'll be right back.
Very good. Okay.
All right. Oh, sorry about that. Man, I can hear your wind chimes going. It must be really windy.
It is. It's very windy. I like the times, though. It relaxes me, and it's not too annoying.
Yeah, no, the wind chimes are nice. My wife had a pair somewhere. I don't know where they're at. Somewhere around here. We're outgrowing our place, so we're looking for a new place right now.
Good.
But
expansion is always good.
It is.
Expansion is always good, as long as it's not your body, and my body keeps expanding.
You're not the only one, trust me. I had that same problem.
It's
my doctor keeps telling me to drink more and more water. I keep telling her I drink a gallon of water a day. How much more do you want me to drink? But yeah.
Well, when you get a certain age, you see, you're at a good age because whatever you do, it's not going to, unless you're a diabetic. If you're not a diabetic, you have several options or choices you can make in life, and they could improve your life. I don't know. I've been overweight for probably the last 10 years of my life, and reason being is I'm addicted to Italian food for some strange reason. Love lasagna. Oh, man, spaghetti. Love the pizza.
I used to love lasagna. Yeah, I'm Italian, so I know exactly.
Well, there you have
it. But I like lasagna, but I don't know have you ever tried veggie lasagna?
Sure.
Oh, I love veggie lasagna. I can eat that all day long. I put that on top of regular meat lasagna. But
that's one great thing about that. You can be real creative. And well, you see, that's the whole thing, though. There is a thing, where having a fixation on food is not a healthy thing.
No.
I try not to fall in that category, but sometimes I can't help but wonder. I need to pay more attention to what's going on within my body.
Yeah.
Thank God I'm not a diabetic, and I'm less than a year away from being 70 years old. So as a senior, I have to really pay attention to those things,
I mean, I don't eat terribly, but here the problem is because I'm on the road all day, driving a truck. I don't get to eat very healthy either.
Yeah.
A lot of what I eat is Burger King for lunch or McDonald's for lunch. But even then, I try to get like chicken nuggets or something. Nothing too heavy. But I also do, if I can stop at a Wawa or a Sheetz or something, I'm limited to where I can go because I got 80 feet. I got 40 foot of trailer behind me. But
they always just say you are what you eat. But I have a very short story to tell you if you want to hear it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, true story. There's a chef, and this is in Florida. This chef worked for Holiday Inn, and he was very well known, and people knew him as being a reliable chef. His wife disappeared like about maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 months before it actually hit the news. And what was happening is there was no trace of her body. And so the authorities, they investigated not only the chef, but his work environment, where he lived, all the other places, because he was the number one suspect.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know, 10 years later, first of all, the case turned into what's called a cold case. Because they couldn't find the body. 10 years later, they found evidence that linked to the chef. And it was all in regards to the tools that he was using. He used a special knife, special chopping block, things of this nature. And as a result, they found evidence. And believe it or not, this evidence just stayed and lasted for a very long time because a lot of this stuff is put in storage. The evidence showed that he chopped up his wife in small pieces and served his wife for the past several months as like some kind of entree. And Yeah, exactly. And I think about all those people that were guests at the Holiday Inn, who were there for those months while he was a chef.
Yeah. Oh,
And oh my gosh! And I remember that case really well. Um, and to think, they say that human flesh, when eaten, when digest, um, you really couldn't tell um, if it was human flesh or not. I mean, you would think that it was a gourmet
yeah.
meal because it tastes so good. It
Yeah.
doesn't taste like chicken. It doesn't taste like anything else you may have tried or eaten. But to think, to be served and not knowing that whatever you're eating, this is true in restaurants. As if you go to fast food restaurants, as I
Mm-hmm.
tend to do once in a while, you have no idea how that food is prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear stories about people finding fingers, that are deep fried in their Kentucky Fried Chicken, basket and stuff like that. And there's like, urban legends. Who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows if they're true? But you know what? The possibility still rides that anything and everything is possible.
Oh yeah.
So, I consider myself a people person, but if I was in Florida in those months where the chef was serving his wife in pieces, I would hate to say that I am what you are, what you eat, because that would really make you look pretty bad.
Yeah, that's geez. I mean
I
that
had, I
actually
had to
reminds me of
share
a
that.
story my uncle told me. My uncle's a truck driver as well. He was delivering to a Chinese or a warehouse next to a Chinese
Yeah.
restaurant, and he heard a commotion next door at the Chinese restaurant, and all of a sudden he saw a cat jump over the fence and a guy chasing it with a machete.
Oh man,
Yeah,
talk about an overkill.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Kind of brings that stereotype of they put cat in the Chinese food,
Yeah.
but I always thought that was funny. I really did.
Yeah. Well, there are people in our country, in certain parts of our country, that find it very acceptable in terms of eating things that we would never even consider eating, like
Mm-hmm.
bats or
Oh,
rats or rodent, or any kind of rodent, or possums, or I don't know, and like, maybe I'm old fashioned. I'm from East New York in Brooklyn. Okay, Brooklyn, New York. I guess we're a little bit old fashioned. We don't really like to eat insects. Um,
yeah. Although some of those rats in New York could make a good meal.
yeah.
I've seen some of the rats in the subway in New York,
Oh
and
my
holy
gosh.
hell!
See some of the rats in Los Angeles. Oh, in the early
Oh,
morning
I bet.
hours, there's so many of them. There's like hundreds of them. I'm not kidding you. Hundreds
Oh,
of them
I
come
bet.
out of the sewer, and this is like where there's no traffic about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. They tend to come out, and you ask anyone who ever lived in Los Angeles, and who very well may live in Los Angeles at the present time, if they leave their house like early in the morning in downtown Los Angeles, they'll see rats all over the place. I mean, it's
I
infested.
believe it.
And underground, there's a tavern under Los Angeles, like in most cities, and they're infested with all kinds of rodents. It's really,
I
it's
believe it.
really interesting.
I
Yeah.
believe it. Reminds me of that movie Demolition Man where he's eating a rat burger, or
Oh,
Sylvester Stallone eats a rat burger and he says it's good.
you, you know what? If you're hungry and there's nothing else, you probably do. I mean, I remember I saw a movie one time. This guy was in Alcatraz, and he ate a roach. There was a roach in his cell, and he just, because he was so hungry, he just slammed it with his hand and just digest. He just consumed it. And to me, it's like it's going a little bit too far.
Yeah, I know. I swallowed my fair share of insects over the years, but not on purpose.
I have too. I tell you a brief story, real brief story. Okay, years ago, I was a center director for an ARC facility,
Mhm.
and they used to have a cafeteria, and I would go in the cafeteria every morning, and I would have a vanilla malt. I love malteds, and they would make it just right. And it's not happened once, but it happened several times where I am sucking on the straw, and a roach comes right up from the syrup right up through the straw, and I'm having this roach in my mouth. This has
Oh,
happened a few times. I don't mean to sound disgusting, but this has happened a few times. And and as I said, it goes right back to what I'm saying in the very beginning. You have no idea how they prepare your food, especially even though if it's an accident. And in this case, I know it was an accident. These guys were working on what was called a WTA work therapy assignment, and so this wasn't their trade. This was their rehabilitation. So they're working in this little cafeteria, and so no wonder all these things, roaches are going into the moth mix, and it's really gross when you think about it. And oh my god, it happened at least 2 or 3 times. I mean, 2 or 3 separate times. Now the big question is, why would I get the second moth? Why would I? And even if it was a matter of a couple of weeks after the first experience, why would I order a second one or a third one? I don't know. I'm just crazy that way.
Well, I guess if it tastes good, you'll go back.
Well, in World War II, they used to have in the dough. They used to have these parasites in the dough, and I forget what they're called. They're little parasites. They look like little black dots, and they were in the bread mix. So they would bake the bread for the military, and they would serve it to the military men, knowing that these things were in the bread, in the dough, and that was a very common. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the FDA they inspect the food that we eat, and in chocolate,
right,
there's like a percentage that's acceptable in terms of insects that they will allow in your chocolate. So if you've ever eaten chocolate, or if you still eat chocolate, you're also eating insects. Okay, there's a certain small percentage, but there was this percentage acceptable enough that the FDA has approved, and because it's not going to kill you, and if anything else, it's just additional protein. So if you're a chocolate eater, understand that what you're eating is not exactly 100% chocolate. There are other things to enhance the taste.
Exactly. Well, that's like that. That's like that adage. They make gum out of horses' hoofs.
That's interesting.
I've heard that. I don't know if there's any truth to it, but I've heard it.
The best thing that I could remember ever eating in New York was a hot dog. And then of course, years afterwards, I realized what's inside that hot dog, and you would not believe what's inside the hot. I mean, it's so much stuff that would make you gag, but it tastes so good. Yep. I mean, I don't know how to explain that, but it just tastes so good.
Yeah, it's almost like going to Philly.
Because right back to the subject of evil. Evil. It feels so good. I mean, it feels so good to be involved in these things that we know as sin. And we find ourselves being compelled to repeat the same action, knowing it's not the right thing to do, but yet we continue to do it because it feels so good. What's hard about it is to acknowledge that it is a sin, and that to refrain from it, whether it be overeating, whether it be lust, whether it be anything like that, you need to refrain from these things in order to become whole once again, and acknowledge the fact that that is not a good thing. And you see, that's the most difficult thing to do, is to refrain from all these things that feel good, all these things that we spoil ourselves with. It's so hard to refrain from all of those things. Drugs, alcohol, whatever whatever the substance is. The point is, refraining from it is the hardest thing, and yet it's just like the element of evil knows that it's hard for us to resist the seduction of evil, and as a result, it will keep continuing to tempt you and to. It also becomes like a obsession where you can't even break from this thing that's bringing you down. And yet, if you address it and do your best and ask God to give you the strength to resist it, it's a very good possibility that you'll repeat this sin again. But at least you're asking God to give you the strength to resist it.
Yeah, I know. It's like my mother-in-law makes these killer brownies, and I can't have just one. But every time she makes it, I have resisted it before, but then she sends them home with us. And then it's just like game on after that. It's like, oh. You know, I always tell her, you gotta stop making these brownies. They're making me fat. You know. But then, of course, if you ask my wife does the same thing. She likes to bake. She likes to bake sweets and goods like that, and she always tells me, "I'm gonna make you fat." I'm like, I'm already fat. I'm already fat because
well, you know what? We always blame the people we love for our weaknesses. The true person who's the guilty one is we would be that person, because even though we're tempted with all these wonderful foods and sweets and stuff, it's, as I said before, it's like, it's so tempting. You just want to let yourself go, which is a terrible thing to do. But yet, then you regret it afterwards.
Oh yeah, you're smiling afterwards, but you're not. The scale's smiling too.
That's right. That's right. No forgiving in those numbers.
Definitely not. Believe me, there's definitely no forgiveness. I've lost weight, I've gained weight, but
Dan, I want to tell you, it's a pleasure, talking to you.
It is. Okay? Same here.
You're a very good young man. I feel you have your whole life ahead of you, and you have a beautiful son. And I think that you treat life as precious as it truly is, as well as all the people you know, and you will be okay. You'll be okay, my friend.
Yeah, well, definitely. And if I don't know the answer, I know where to go.
There you go.
I know where to go find it.
Okay, my friend. Well, I'm gonna. We can end this now, and I'm going to tell you that that it was a pleasure knowing you, having you even accept some of the cases that we could throw at you to look into. I appreciate that very much.
Actually, the one case. Did you get my email about the one case?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we just keep the connection going, and as far as I'm concerned, you're part of our organization because you're working in our behalf. So that's a good thing. So,
I appreciate all the opportunities that the organization allows me.
And, anytime you're in trouble, you know how to reach me.
Yep. And that goes for anybody. Anybody needs their help, you can contact me, and I can contact the bishop, or you guys can contact the bishop at theorderofexorcists.com, and he'll be happy to help out any way he can. So anybody that needs help, don't hesitate to ask for help. It doesn't make you less of a person. It really does not. So I mean, that's the best advice I can give you. Give anybody. So
good.
And on that note, I guess we'll end it on that note. So, Bishop, we'll have you on again, and sometime in the future. I'm still working on trying to see if I can get a couple other exorcists on to do that panel, because it would be really interesting.
I'd probably be more of a watcher than a participator, because I am retired. I'm semi-retired. I only do the high-profile cases that come by. And anyone who wants help, I would refer them to the forums, my Facebook forums. I have a lot of them that they could go to. I have people that I've trained over the years that are members of my forum, and they could just simply post their request. So this way, it minimizes my time, because I get so much email and so much request. I'm not kidding. And you wouldn't know that I'm retired, but
I have. In this world, you're never really retired.
I just had an operation like 3 months ago. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I had 3 bones removed in the back of my neck.
I think I remember you saying something about that, or at least posting it. Yeah.
Yep. I have a scar like that long in the back of my neck, and it was not very pretty. But I'll tell you, but you know what it did do? It made me shorter in terms of height, because they removed 3 bones from my spine. Isn't that weird? However, I don't have these sciatica, problem that I had, and that was the reason for the surgery, and so it worked, which is really good. Thank God. Yeah. So it's just another battle that I could just simply cross off, and as I continue my journey in life.
Yeah, well, you've been attacked a few times from by the demonic.
So yeah, it's I had my life almost taken from me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you know the story. I was in the hospital for 30 days.
Right, yeah. Yep, I read that.
I almost died. So, this is, no matter how skeptical people might tend to be in regards to the subject matter, this stuff is real.
Mm-hmm.
And,
very real.
This is not about politics. This is not about denominations. This is not about you. This is about the reality that we have to all face in life. And it's all part of it. You can't live in a tunnel. You can't live with blinders on. This is happening all around us, and this is real.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the reason I do these podcasts because I enjoy them, I like to give information out that may be helpful to somebody who needs that information. I'm doing that. In this case, of course, I'm promoting my book, but it's still information that's going out.
Yeah, I mean, you can always learn something from somebody else's experience.
Always.
I mean, I know Bishop Brian Willett from the Atlanta chapter. He does his podcast, Vestiges After Dark, and I've listened to his podcast, and I've learned a few things from him.
He's one of my students,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, he learned the process from my organization. A lot of the bishops that were former students of mine who have taken the various classes that we used to give in order to understand the process of assessments. And it's a science.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I've changed. I've gone your way. I've done the way you do assessments, and it works out a lot better. It really does. I mean, I had my own intake forms, but I also added your intake form on it as well.
Good.
So, and it's helped me out a lot. I mean, that case sounds like a case of oppression by one of the residents of the house. So, but I haven't investigated that one yet. That's coming up in June. But and we'll see what happens with that one. It sounds interesting. It really does.
Well, until next time,
yep.
You know how to contact me, and you take care of yourself. God bless you, your family, and Edison, of course, and
also you too, and your granddaughter and your grandson. Congratulations on that.
Okay. Take care, my friend. Okay, I'm going to say.
All right, take care, Bishop. Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye. All right, everybody. There you have it. Bishop Ron, file Enright, Order of Exorcists. If you have any questions, you can email him or you can email me. But if you're looking for help, you can contact us, NewJerseyGhostDetectives.net or NJGhostDetectives.net, or contact the Order of Exorcists at theorderofexorcists.com. Okay, next week we will have Ralph Sarchi on. He's been in a few publications. He's wrote a few books. We're gonna have him on and hear his story, how he got into the paranormal and stuff like that from being a police NYPD sergeant. So you are very welcome. Tune in next week for Ralph's to hear their interview with Ralph Sarchi. He's a wealth of knowledge as well. So on that note, I'm going to end the broadcast here because I hear my son crying, and I'm pretty sure my wife needs some help with him. So till next week, enjoy. Again, Paranormal Happy Hour, 7 p.m. on Sundays. And next week we'll have Ralph Sarchi on. All right? Have a good night, everybody.